Do you think God allows failure to teach us or to punish us? Some mistakes are small, others cost millions, but when failure strikes on such a massive scale, it makes you wonder, was it just bad luck, human error, or something greater? In today's video, we're diving into the most expensive failures ever caught on camera. From billion-dollar explosions to mind-blowing engineering disasters, each moment captured holds a lesson, or maybe a warning. Orville Dam's terrifying breakdown. A peaceful giant was hiding a ticking time bomb. Standing 770 feet tall, the Orville Dam in California had been holding back over 1.1 trillion gallons of water since 1968. But in February 2017, after one of the rainiest winters in Northern California's history, the dam reached a dangerous point. The water level shot up to 150% of what it normally holds. So the team opened the main spillway to release the pressure, but that's when disaster struck. A huge hole suddenly appeared in the middle of the spillway. The concrete had worn away, and water started flowing underneath it, shaking the whole structure and forcing them to shut it down. But the danger wasn't over. With the main spillway offline and water levels still rising fast, something happened that hadn't in 50 years. Water began pouring over the dam's emergency spillway, something it was never meant to do. That side wasn't strong enough, and this created a new, much scarier threat. People feared that the whole dam might break apart. Thousands were evacuated. It was a moment where nature showed just how quickly things can go from calm to chaos. Car vanished into the ground. It was just a quiet day in Dale City, Virginia, until the ground suddenly opened up and swallowed a red car. People in the neighborhood couldn't believe their eyes. A massive sinkhole appeared right in the middle of a suburban street, leaving a deep hole where the car once stood. Experts think it happened because of the recent thunderstorms. While thunder doesn't create sinkholes, the heavy rain can speed them up by washing away soft underground rock like limestone. What makes this even scarier is how silent it all was. One moment the car was parked, and the next it was gone without a sound. No one was inside, thankfully, but the scene was chilling, like the earth had just eaten the car. Sinkholes form when water removes the ground from underneath, and the surface suddenly gives way. Nature doesn't always give warnings, and this was one of those moments that remind us how much is happening under our feet without us knowing. Whale tail saved the train. It was just past midnight near Rotterdam, and the city was quiet, but something totally shocking had happened. A metro train was hanging 30 feet above the ground, resting on the giant tail of a whale sculpture. People couldn't believe their eyes. This wasn't some crazy art installation. It was a real accident. The train had crashed through the safety barriers and flew off the elevated track. But here's the unbelievable part. No one was hurt. The driver made it out safe, and luckily, the train was empty. And guess what saved it from crashing into the water below? That huge whale sculpture. It stopped the train from falling, turning a piece of art into a real-life hero. That night, art didn't just impress people, it saved lives. Sinking ship full of cars. Everything was going smoothly until the sea turned wild. In 2006, a giant ship called the MV Cougar Ace was carrying 4,700 shiny new Mazdas from Japan to North America. Built in 1993, this massive ship could hold over 5,000 cars. But near Alaska, something went very wrong. As the crew drained water from its ballast tanks during rough weather, the ship suddenly lost balance and started tipping badly. It looked like the whole thing would flip into the ocean. Luckily, all 23 crew members were rescued just in time. But saving the ship wasn't easy. For 5 days, the giant vessel floated sideways, helpless in the sea. A brave rescue team rushed to Dutch Harbor and used strong pumps to shift the water inside and slowly make the ship stand upright again. It worked, but sadly, one rescuer lost his life during the tough job. In the end, the ship was saved, and about 1,000 cars were still usable. The rest, lost forever. Some ships get lucky, others don't. Electric car fire destroys ship cargo. It all started with a normal sea journey. In February 2016, a ship named Baltimore Zephyr was carrying electric cars from New York to Haiti. But suddenly, something went terribly wrong. One of the cars had a short circuit, and that small spark turned into a massive fire. The flames quickly spread through the ship's cargo, leaving the crew in shock and panic. Later, investigators found out it was definitely an electrical fault that caused everything. The damage was huge, costing over $1.3 million in insurance. This scary event shows that even with today's smart technology, things can still go out of control. People often worry about ships sinking, but fires and other unexpected dangers at sea are just as real. Fireball at the gas station. A normal day turned into chaos in Volgograd, Russia on August 10, 2020. Out of nowhere, a huge fireball exploded above a gas station near the highway. People nearby were shocked as the sky lit up with flames. The blast was so powerful that it knocked people off their feet even more than a mile away. It all started when static electricity likely sparked during the transfer of fuel from a tanker into underground tanks. Firefighters rushed in, 70 of them, with even a special firefighting robot to fight the massive fire. Thanks to quick action, the gas station was evacuated just in time. No one lost their life, which many called a miracle. The explosion was so intense that people compared it to the deadly Beirut blast that happened just days before. Beirut's deadly mistake. Everything changed in seconds on August 4th, 2020. A massive explosion tore through Beirut, creating a giant hole nearly 460 feet wide. This wasn't just any blast, it was one of the biggest non-nuclear explosions ever seen. It all started with 2,750 tons of ammonium nitrate, a dangerous chemical that had been sitting in a warehouse for years. It was taken from a ship back in 2013 and just left there even after many warnings. Nobody moved it. And one day, during some welding work, a spark finally set it off, with deadly results. The power of the blast was unreal. It shook the ground like a 3.3 magnitude earthquake and was felt over 100 miles away. Over 200 people died, more than 6,000 were hurt, and 300,000 lost their homes. Whole neighborhoods were destroyed. Even hospitals and emergency services were damaged, making it hard to help anyone quickly. The port was ruined, hitting Lebanon's already struggling economy. The world rushed to help, but this disaster exposed deep corruption in the government. People flooded the streets, demanding answers. But the truth is still buried in politics, and justice feels far away. Plane engine caught fire midair. Everything was calm until a nightmare unfolded midair. Passengers on United Airlines Flight 328 were flying from Denver to Honolulu in February 2021 when flames suddenly burst out of the right engine. Just 4 minutes after takeoff, a metal fan blade broke due to stress and age, causing the engine to fail. Pieces of the engine flew off and fell over neighborhoods below, but luckily no one was injured. The pilots stayed calm, turned the plane around, and made a safe emergency landing back in Denver. After this close call, experts quickly checked similar engines all over the world. The engine on this flight was part of the Pratt & Whitney PW4000 series, already known for metal fatigue issues. The incident raised big questions about airline safety checks and how we handle aging aircraft parts. Thanks to the quick-thinking crew, no lives were lost, but it reminded everyone that even the safest planes need strict inspections to stay safe. When a bridge gave up. One rainy March day in 2023, a man named Miles Welch was driving through Lafayette, Alabama, when something terrifying stopped him in his tracks. Right in front of his eyes, the ground near a bridge at Chattahoochee Creek started cracking. Then, just like that, the bridge supports gave in and collapsed into the rushing floodwater. Miles was lucky to be far enough, but there was no crossing that day. The bridge was gone. Experts say things like this are happening more often now because of extreme weather and flash floods, which can quickly wash away the soil holding bridges up. It's a warning sign that many bridges we drive over every day might not be as safe as we think. But this wasn't the only time a bridge turned into a disaster. Back in August 2007, a busy highway bridge in Minnesota suddenly fell during rush hour. It was carrying construction materials and lots of cars when the middle section broke apart without warning. 13 people died and over 100 were hurt. Investigators later found that the metal parts holding the bridge together were too weak and poorly designed. That collapse shook the whole country. It pushed the government to start checking thousands of bridges, and finally, a new and stronger bridge opened in 2018, built with better materials and a memorial for the lives lost. This disaster showed us that ignoring old bridges can cost lives, and it's time to take safety seriously. Highway turns into slime horror. It started like a normal day, but things got real messy real fast. In July 2017, Oregon police faced a problem straight out of a horror movie. A truck flipped over and dumped thousands of slimy, wriggling sea creatures all over the highway. These weren't snakes, they were live hagfish. Slippery ocean animals known for spraying thick slime when scared. Their slime is so sticky it can block a predator's mouth or gills in seconds. The truck was carrying 13 crates of hagfish meant for dinner plates in South Korea, but the driver hit the brakes too hard near a construction zone, and that sent the crates flying. Over 7,500 pounds of slime covered the road, forcing fire crews to spend hours cleaning it all up. Most of the hagfish didn't survive the crash, but maybe after that kind of chaos, it was a strange kind of mercy. When a leak turned into a nightmare. It all started with a simple leak, but what happened next was total madness. In 2017, a mother and her 2 kids just wanted their apartment fixed. A plumber came in, ready to work, but the landlady didn't want to pay the $150 to turn off the building's water, so she told the plumber to do the job while the water was still running. Bad idea. The whole place started flooding. His assistant was trying to vacuum the water off the carpets while the repair was still going on. It was a complete mess. But the nightmare didn't stop there. Not only was their apartment soaked, but even the neighbor's unit got damaged. The landlady, trying to save money, ended up spending thousands on repairs, and when they went to court, the judge clearly wasn't impressed with the plumber's wild technique. In the end, the so-called plumber didn't just fail at fixing the leak, his dream of becoming a pro went straight down the drain. When the earth broke apart, the ground looked normal, but something terrifying was brewing underneath. In November 2023, the peaceful town of Grindavik in Iceland turned into a cracking nightmare. More than 900 earthquakes rocked the area in just one day, splitting roads and tearing the land apart. It wasn't just a small shake. The earth opened up as if it had a life of its own. Now shift to September 2022, but this time it's Newfoundland Island in Canada. A massive hurricane named Earl slammed the area with winds reaching 85 miles per hour. It wasn't the wind that did the most damage, it was the water. Floods broke a water main, rain kept pouring, and slowly the road began to collapse from underneath. In no time, the street turned into a fast-flowing river. Cars couldn't drive there anymore. Only canoes could float through the mess. Concrete disaster ends in arrest. Things got messy real fast on a road near Philadelphia. A white SUV suddenly cut in front of a cement truck, making the driver hit the brakes hard. That's when it happened. A flood of thick, wet concrete spilled all over the SUV. It covered the front half and even poured into the open driver's window. Imagine sitting there getting soaked in cold, gooey cement. Luckily, no one got hurt, but the drama was far from over. Just when you thought the mess was over, it got crazier. A police officer showed up and told the woman to stay where she was, but she sped off instead. She drove 2 miles to a car wash trying to clean up the mess, but ended up damaging the place by spraying wet cement everywhere. Turns out she had just left a shady bar and was driving under the influence. Police arrested her soon after. One bad choice led to total chaos, and now she's got concrete proof of just how wrong things went. Glowing green mystery on NYC streets. Something strange lit up the streets of Manhattan in November 2023. People walking near Cedar Street were shocked to see bright green liquid oozing out from the sewer grates. It looked like something from a scary sci-fi movie. The glowing stuff made people think of dangerous chemicals or even something radioactive. But the real reason wasn't so scary. Experts said it was probably just dye tracing, a colorful liquid used to check for plumbing leaks. But the big question was, how did it get out onto the street? A restaurant nearby blamed the hotel across the road, saying they were testing sprinklers, but the hotel manager said no test ever happened. With over 7,400 meters of sewers underground, no one knew exactly where it came from. Maybe, just maybe, the Ninja Turtles finally left a clue. Toxic slime leak shuts down Detroit freeway. Drivers were shocked when a bright green liquid started oozing out of a Detroit freeway wall in 2019. Traffic came to a halt on Interstate 696 as 2 lanes were shut down to keep people safe. This wasn't just any slime, it was toxic groundwater filled with a deadly chemical called hexavalent chromium. Turns out it came from an old electroplating factory nearby that had been shut down for years. The owners had even been sent to prison for illegally storing dangerous chemicals. Inspectors later found a massive pit full of toxic waste hidden in the building's basement. Even after the Environmental Protection Agency spent over a year and $1.5 million cleaning it up, the danger didn't go away. Rain kept leaking through the broken roof, mixing with leftover chemicals and pushing the glowing green water out onto the road. Crews tried to stop it using absorbent barriers, but experts believe a lot of it ended up in Lake St. Clair. That kind of pollution is a serious threat to fish and animals. Let's just hope the lake doesn't start creating radioactive monsters anytime soon. Cracks in the ground. Everything looked normal until the ground started shifting. At a construction site in Coquitlam, Canada, something terrifying happened on November 29, 2023. Workers noticed a huge crack forming in one of the temporary support walls. This wall was holding back tons of soil while they were digging to build a tall 44-story apartment building. The tension in the air was heavy, and then it happened. The wall gave up with a loud rumble, and a wave of soil crashed into the site like water from a broken dam. Thankfully, all the workers had already moved away and nothing underground was damaged, but watching the whole thing caught on camera is enough to make your stomach turn. It shows how fast a massive project can fall apart in just seconds. Unexpected tower crash. This was supposed to be a clean demolition job, but something wild happened. In Manchester, Ohio, a team was all set to bring down 4 old towers at a closed power plant. Everything looked perfect. Explosives were in place, countdown began, and boom! They exploded just like planned. But suddenly, one of the towers didn't fall straight down. Instead, it crashed into the tower next to it. Now, that second tower wasn't supposed to fall yet, but the first one pushed it over like dominoes. People on site were shocked. It was not part of the plan. Luckily, the whole area was already marked for full demolition, so it didn't cause a huge problem. Some joked maybe the universe just helped them save money by knocking down 2 towers with one blast. 4 towers gone, 1 unexpected extra collapse. Denmark's silo demolition disaster. Everything looked perfect on paper, but what happened next shocked everyone in Denmark. In the quiet Verdenberg harbor, workers were ready to bring down an old silo to make room for new buildings. After 6 months of careful planning, the team set the charges and watched. But instead of falling the right way, the massive structure crashed sideways, right onto a library and cultural center. Luckily, no one was inside, but the building was completely destroyed. This wasn't just a random accident. Engineers had spent half a year studying the structure, placing explosives, and calculating every move. But one small mistake in timing or angle was all it took to turn a safe demolition into a massive disaster. So next time your day goes off track, remember, it could have been worse. You could have dropped a silo on a library. Rooftop glass fail. It started like a normal workday in Bangalore, India, but things quickly got out of hand. Workers were trying to lift a huge glass panel up to the top of a building using a crane. Everything seemed fine until the glass began to swing wildly and slammed into the crane. The giant glass shattered into a million sharp pieces, falling all over the place. Luckily, no one got hurt, but the mess left behind was massive. That wasn't just broken glass, it was a full-blown disaster, and cleaning it up must have felt like a nightmare. Oil disaster in the Amazon. This one disaster changed everything. In January 2022, a major oil pipeline in Ecuador cracked open and spilled over 250,000 gallons of crude oil into the Amazon. The thick black oil flowed down hills and straight into the Coca River, a lifeline for 27,000 indigenous people and countless animals. And this wasn't the first time. Since 2003, the pipeline has broken 7 times. It crosses dangerous areas with fault lines and volcanoes, yet the company still called the spill an unpredictable event. Really? The damage didn't stop at the water. The oil poisoned the soil too, ruining farming and hunting grounds. And with the Amazon being one of the most biodiverse places on Earth, the long-term damage is heartbreaking. Environmental experts had been warning for years about the pipeline's aging metal and poor maintenance, but no one listened. Now, the cleanup is slow, costly, and painful, especially for the local people. And that's it for today's wild ride through failure and fortune. Which one shocked you the most, and do you think it was just a mistake or something more? Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit like, and don't forget to subscribe for more unbelievable stories caught on camera.